money to buy some country land in the Arkansas mountains. They plan to cut it up into small lots to sell to people for weekend or vacation homes in a place called Whitewater. That was the idea, but the lots didn't sell. One of the partners in the deal owned an S&L that went bust. It was said S&L money went to pay a Clinton campaign debt. There was a suicide. Records of the land deal were hastily moved out of sight. One of the partners, James McDougal, a friend of the president's, was indicted for bank fraud, tried, and acquitted. Money was moved around. Some of it can't be found. President and Mrs. Clinton say they have done nothing wrong, and the president, traveling in Europe, is annoyed that Whitewater is taking the attention away from his travels. A special counsel will examine all of this to see what really happened. In the meantime, we have questions for today's guests. Sam Hewer, the lawyer for a Clinton partner, James McDougal. Senator Bob Dole, Republican leader of the U.S. Senate. And the Vice President of the United States, Al Gore. Some background from our man Jack Smith. And our discussion here with George Will, Sam Donaldson, and Cokie Roberts, here on our Sunday program. First, a little news since the Sunday morning papers. After meeting for 5.5 hours in Geneva, President Clinton and Syrian President Hafez al-Assad told reporters that Syria wants peace with Israel, a peace of the brave, they called it. President Clinton said Syrian President Assad had given him a, quote, clear, forthright, unambiguous commitment to normalize relations with Israel under an eventual peace agreement. Other news, in Durham, North Carolina, the U.S. Olympic Committee is meeting this weekend, and presumably it'll decide what to do next about the beating of Nancy Kerrigan. Tonya Harding, accused by some of being involved, promised a statement soon. Her bodyguard and 2 of his associates are charged with conspiracy in the attack. We'll be back with today's program in a moment.
This Week with David Brinkley, brought to you by GE. From plastics to financial services, we bring good things to life. And by ADM, supermarket to the world.
In 1862, the average American farmer fed 5 people for 1 year. Today, he feeds more than 90, not just Americans, but people around the world as well. Obviously, as a leading processor of food ingredients, we at the Archer Daniels Midland Company couldn't survive without the American farmer. But then, neither could you.
Yes, I have a question about the GE CF6-6 jet engine. If I wanted to engage the cold water tap into the ice maker, do I first
twist the head 16 degrees counterclockwise to allow
enough light for people to see Giovanni Marchesi sing like
a large elephant stuck in a dishwasher?
GE has a simple answer to some tough questions. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. One call is all it takes.
Wonderful.
Terrific.
Excellent.
Cool.
President Clinton in Europe could claim several positive developments. One was an agreement with the Ukraine to dismantle its world's third largest
Ukraine to destroy nuclear weapons, and with Boris Yeltsin said the U.S. and Russia wouldn't aim missiles at each other anymore.
President Havel found them for me and brought them here.
He seemed at ease and in control on his first foray into Europe as president, but the achievements were nearly eclipsed by questions the president didn't want to answer about the Whitewater affair back home.
You had your 2 questions.
All righty.
I'm sorry you're not interested in the trip.
And listen to the president when ABC's Ann Compton said former President Carter suggested an independent counsel.
He and many other Democrats are looking to you for an indication of whether that's appropriate, is it?
I have nothing to say about that on this trip.
This controversy is becoming too much of a distraction. When Democrats began demanding a special counsel to investigate, the White House concluded it had to ask for one.
The person I choose, I want to be ruggedly independent.
Weeks of appearing to stonewall had only made matters worse by raising questions in Washington about what had happened 10 years ago in Arkansas. The Whitewater matter, as it's being called, was played out here in Little Rock in the 1980s while Clinton was in the governor's mansion and his wife a lawyer with a prominent law firm here. Questions have risen out of the Clintons' partnership in developing some Ozark forest land, Whitewater development, with a business friend, James McDougal, who came to own a Little Rock savings and loan called Madison Guarantee that later went bankrupt. Did the president, while governor, use his influence to shore up his friend and business partner's S&L? Were deposits in the S&L illegally diverted to pay Clinton campaign debts? And was it a conflict for Hillary Clinton to represent the S&L belonging to a business partner before state regulators who were answerable to her husband, the governor? The president has denied any wrongdoing, but the way the affair was handled allowed...
This is a Channel 2 News special report.
Good morning, I'm Melissa Mills. We want to bring you the latest developments in the Nancy Kerrigan case this morning and the situation concerning Tonya Harding's status on the U.S. Olympic team. Now, just about an hour ago, the Olympic Committee announced that it has not made a decision on Harding's participation in the Olympics. At the time, Dr. Leroy Walker mentioned to us that they will be counting on the Olympians to make up of America's finest young men and women to make up that team, and that those people should be those who earn the right to represent the United States in a fashion highlighted by good sportsmanship, fair play, strong skills, and a dedication to the rules of the game. Dr. Walker also expressed some concern about the incident and the beating of Nancy Kerrigan. Now, right now, we're going to go to a news conference with Harding's coach, Diane Rawlinson.
Following is our statement. Tonya Harding categorically denies all accusations and media speculation that she was involved in any way with the Kerrigan assault. Tonya is shocked and angry that anyone close to her might be involved. She's pleased to see that Nancy Kerrigan is recovering quickly. She wants the U.S. team to be as strong as it can be. Tonya is beginning the most important month of her life and the most important year of her life. She wants to represent her country in the Olympics, and she needs her fans' support and their prayers. That's the end of the statement. I'm now going to make Diane available, and what I propose is I'm sure a number of you have questions. If you could raise your hands, I'll select folks, and I'll try to repeat the question so you can be heard, and then we'll have Diane answer.
Dennis, can you clarify something first about your statement?
I'm here only to have Diane answer questions, and I'm sorry about that.
Okay,
is there a question for Diane?
I've got a question for you.
Diane, question.
When did you find out about this, and what did you know about it as soon as you found out? What did you know, and when did you find out about this assault?
We had trouble.
The question is, when did you first hear about this?
About the scenario behind it.
About the Kerrigan assault? Yeah. When did you first hear about the Kerrigan assault?
We had problems with Tonya's long program music. It seemed that someone sent in some long program music for Tonya that was not correct. Someone from Southern California sent in a bogus copy of Tonya's music. And so for 2 days, we didn't have the right long program music to skate to. So I was on my way out of the music booth. Tonya skated Tonya's practice was right before Nancy, and I got on the same shuttle bus going back to the hotel with Frank Carroll and Michelle Kwan, and Michelle had witnessed the incident. And so Michelle and Frank and Evelyn Kramer informed me.
When did you know that Eckhart or Bodyguard or anybody else close to her?
Okay, when did you know that Eckhart or anyone else was involved, if you do know that?
We can't hear
Yeah, I'm sorry we don't have a better setup. I don't have any more microphones, so we'll just have to do the best we can.
What was the question?
The question is, when did you know anything about Eckhart, if you knew anything about it?
I knew about Eckhart when I read it in the Oregonian.
Do we have a question for Diane?
Do you think that it's fair that the Olympic Committee may consider dropping her from the team?
The question is, do you think it's fair that the Olympic Committee may consider dropping Tonya from the team?
Tonya's innocent. She won nationals. She trained hard to be on the national team. and she deserves to go.
Diane, the USOC issued a statement.
I'll come right back there. Just a second. Question here.
The USOC issued a statement today, and in it they expressed concern about fair play and safety of the athletes at the Olympics and Games and so on and so forth. They said they were concerned about the reports that, of course, we all know about that have been circulating here in Portland and around the country. And they said they would they would actively address these issues in the days and weeks ahead. Have you seen that statement, or do you have a reaction to that?
The USOC has indicated some concerns about safety and other matters for the skaters. Have you seen that statement, and do you have a reaction to it?
I have not seen that statement, and I don't have a reaction to it.
Okay, right over here. There's a question right up here. I'll come back. Sir. That's a question you want to direct to Diane? Well, I know, but I'm not answering questions. Is there a question for Diane? If they allow Tanya to go to Lillehammer, can she overcome this?
Tanya is best under pressure. She likes Nancy. She believes that she and Nancy are the strongest women to represent the United States.
Diane, in Dennis's statement, it says that she wants the U.S. team to be as strong as possible. If the U.S. team would be stronger without Tanya there, would she withdraw?
Question is, if the team were stronger without Tanya, would Tanya withdraw?
The U.S. team will be the strongest with Nancy and Tanya on the team.
So you don't envision any circumstance where she would withdraw voluntarily?
Tanya is innocent.
Does she intend to go? Question over here, Lou.
Has Tanya been in contact with Nancy Kerrigan at all?
Tanya has written Nancy a letter. I'm not sure whether she's received it yet or not. I don't know.
Question.
Do you believe in Jeff's innocence equally to Tanya?
Question is, do you believe in Jeff's innocence equally to Tanya's?
I'd like to believe that Jeff is innocent. I don't know Jeff as well as I know Tanya. I know Tanya is innocent.
Have you spoken to Jeff?
Question right over here.
Diane, I presume you want to get Tanya back on her schedule as soon as possible and get the legal end over. Do you know why she has not yet talked to the district attorney's office here in Portland?
Do you know whether Tanya has talked to the district attorney's office?
I don't know whether Tanya has spoken with him yet. I know Tanya is cooperating with the district attorney and her attorneys, and she has been advised by the district attorney and her attorneys to focus on the legal aspect of this and not the press. Tanya, you know Tanya. Tanya doesn't like having anyone speak for her. She would like to speak to you herself, and when she's able to speak to you herself, you won't be able to get rid of her.
Ann, is that Ann Schatz?
Diane, I'm sorry. Diane, as a coach going through all this and the emotional up and down in the last week and knowing that Tanya's going through the same thing, do you feel like you two will be able to get back in sync once you're back on the ice? Do you feel like you're burning daylight a little bit? Any kind of panicky feeling from Tanya that she hasn't been on the ice for a while?
Okay, question is, after going through all this, are you guys going to be able to get back on the ice, get over the panic, get to work?
Tanya's really excited to get back on the ice. She does better under pressure. She's just really excited about getting back on.
When and where will she return to the ice? When and where will she return to the ice?
Okay, question is, when and where will Tanya return to the ice? When and where will Tanya return to the ice?
Tanya's home is Clackamas Town Center, the chalet at Clackamas Town Center, and she will always train there, and she's starting her training program tomorrow.
What about reports that she was, Eckhart was a dupe of Tanya?
Okay, question is...
simply was manipulated in some scheme hatched by her and her husband.
Okay, question is, what about the report that Eckhart was a dupe of Tanya's? What do you know about that?
I have never met Eckhart. I have seen him twice over the case of 3 years, aside from in the paper and on TV.
So what is the answer?
And
what do you think?
Okay, question is, what do you think about what?
What do you think about the report that Tanya manipulated Eckhart, that he was a dupe of her Machiavellian tendencies?
Okay. What do you think about the report that Eckhart is somehow a dupe of Tanya's?
You've all seen Eckhart on TV. He's changed his stories numerous times. I've never even met Eckhart. I think he had a lot of, personal things to gain from this. I think he tried to do this. If he did do it, if he actually did do it, I think he did it to gain attention for himself.
Diane, to your knowledge...
I'm sorry, you've had two. This gentleman right here.
You will continue to train her. You haven't considered taking her out of town or somewhere else just to prepare for the Olympics?
Will you continue to train her, and will you do that here?
We've had so many offers, dozens of offers from all over the country, from coaches and skating clubs wanting Tanya to come and train at their facility, saying that they will be totally secured. Tanya's home is Portland, Oregon. We train here. She wouldn't go anywhere else.
Why don't we go over here and I'll come back.
Okay, thank you.
Question right here.
Yes. If Tanya is expelled from the Olympic team, what actions will you take?
If Tanya is expelled from the Olympic team, what actions will you take?
You'd have to talk to Tanya about that.
You mentioned legal issues a minute ago that Tanya was concerned with. What legal issues are you referring to?
I don't hear her referring to any legal issues. The question is, what legal issues is Diane referring to? Are you referring to...
You said Tanya's concentrating on legal issues and not the press.
I think what she mentioned earlier about cooperating with the district attorney and her attorneys rather than putting her focus on the press for now. And that's, I think, was the point.
Is the Olympic Committee pressuring her to withdraw?
Question is the Olympic Committee pressuring Tanya to withdraw?
We've had nothing but positives from the Olympic Committee. I spoke with the team leader for Olympics 2 days ago, and she wanted to know what she could do to help us.
Right here. Okay, question is, I'll be right with you. Question is, why is Tanya not talking yet?
I answered that a minute ago, but I'm sorry. Tanya is cooperating with the district attorney and her attorneys, and she's focusing on that. And when she's
are they telling her not to talk?
Tanya will talk when she can. Right now, they're just focusing on her.
What's her state of mind?
Okay, question is, what's Tanya's state of mind?
Tanya is very angry and upset that anyone around her has had anything to do with this.
Has she been questioned by police?
Right back here. Question. Okay. Question is, do you have any reaction to the report that the death threats to Tanya at the Northwest competition somehow was staged?
I have coached Tanya since the time she was 3 years old, except for a short 2 years. I know Tanya better than anyone. Tanya was terrified at the death threat. I was terrified by the death threat. Tanya had nothing to do with that. And when this happened to Nancy, Tanya was terrified because she had just gone through something she felt very similar.
What was her reaction when all this came to light, that it was her bodyguard, that her ex-husband's pocket?
That is the statement this morning from Diane Rawlinson, Tanya Harding's coach and friend. In essence, what she has said is that Tanya Harding denies all accusations that may have surfaced that she may be involved in this alleged plot to injure Nancy Kerrigan, that she is very angry that anyone close to her may have been involved. And the Rawlinsons have also said that Tanya is unequivocally innocent and should be able to go to the Olympics so that the U.S. will have the strongest team possible. Those are the developments at this hour. Now we will rejoin regular programming.
This has been a Channel 2 News special report. We now return to our regularly scheduled programming.
In business, there never seems to be enough of it. And the last thing you can afford to do is run out of it. Time. So rest assured, Delta Airlines will help you make the most of it. With over 4,900 flights a day to over 300 cities around the world. And best of all, we'll make sure you arrive relaxed and refreshed with plenty of time to spare. Delta Airlines.
A new chapter has begun in Merrill Lynch's history in Asia. We are the first American securities firm invited to open an office in mainland China. Being there gives our financial consultants a different perspective, which makes a difference for our clients. The difference is Merrill Lynch.
There's a race going on in this country, and the stakes are high. It's a race to save one of America's most precious resources, our topsoil, from a disaster that could ultimately threaten the survival of our civilization. In just 100 years of deep plowing, half the topsoil in much of our most productive farmland has been blown or washed away, severely threatening our ability to grow the food we need. Today's farmers are gearing up for the race by turning from deep plowing to an innovative practice that reduces soil erosion as much as 92%. It's called no-till, and compared to conventional plowing, it saves labor, time, and fuel while preserving water quality and helping protect the environment. By adopting such practices now, we can save our topsoil for countless generations to come. And thanks to the American farmer, we're gaining ground every day.
Monday, is this any way to collect money?
I'm calling forever. I'm going to make Miss Wilson's life a living hell, man.
What if you were on the other end of this line? Day One collects the facts. Plus, sure, you think too much violence in movies is bad, but what do the stars think? You'll be surprised. Day One, Monday at 8, 7 Central.
Senator Dole, you're in Bal Harbor, Florida, I believe.
Nice and warm here.
We envy you all. Here it was this 0 this morning. George and Sam are here. We're pleased to have you, and thanks for coming. Now, you want a special counsel in the Whitewater case. What used to be called a special prosecutor, the term has now been changed. What would that produce why wouldn't that produce enough? You also want a congressional investigation.
Right. I suggested we have a select committee. I think we need to wait and see who's appointed special counsel. That'll be done by Janet Reno, the Attorney General, and that may change the attitude some. We've had the Congressional Research Service, which is a service we have in Congress, go back the last 12 years, Republican years, and we've discovered, and this is not an exhaustive list, that there's been at least 18 different congressional inquiries into the executive branch, President Reagan, President Bush. And in fact, I sort of got my idea from what Vice President Gore said in June of 1991. He wanted a special investigation of the so-called October surprise, where he alleged that there may have been some deal to keep the hostages until after the 1980 election, that Ronald Reagan, the late Bill Casey, and others may have been involved. So I sort of took a look at what Vice President Gore, then Senator Gore, was saying on the floor of the Senate in June of 1991. He asked, even though there wasn't a lot of evidence, he asked for a hearing, he asked for a bipartisan committee with subpoena powers, and it seemed to me that if that was probably a pretty good idea then, it was probably still a pretty good idea.
Well, we've just had, maybe you saw a lawyer for one of the principals in this who seems to want to dismiss all of this as nickel and dime, molehill into a mountain, so on. Do you accept that? You think it's a major question?
I don't believe we know, and I don't think any of us should prejudge. Obviously, it's my hope that just as when they had the Carter investigation of maybe warehouse loans for the campaign, they had a Republican independent counsel. They spent 6 or 7 months, and everybody was given a clean bill of health. That may happen in this case, depending on who the counsel is and what happens. But I think the big problem for the American people with Whitewater has been the reluctance to give any information. Senator Gore, when he was a senator, always demanded that President Bush release all the documents, release papers. He was making these charges in the 1992 election with reference to Iraq and agricultural loans and things of that kind. And we're making the same charge. They ought to make these papers public. Maybe that would restore confidence to the American people. But certainly, my view is that we've taken a big step in the right direction. We'll see what happens.
Senator Dole, what is the worst that you can imagine would be in these papers? I think one reason the American people seem to be having trouble getting lathered up about this is they can't imagine what is so important.
I don't know, but I think the worst could be that all the efforts to cover up whatever may be in there, somebody must know something we don't know. And whether or not it's related to the suicide of Mr. Foster, whether or not it's related to Webb Hubbell and his father-in-law who borrowed $1 million from Madison. I don't think he paid it back. The present governor of Arkansas, also a big borrow of Madison. I mean, they had a network, and plus whether it was Mrs. Hillary who got $2,000 a month for 15 months as a retainer. I mean, there are just a lot of questions that have to be answered. I don't know what the bottom line is, but I do think it's something that should be investigated fairly and objectively.
On another matter, the matter of health care that may dominate the agenda this year, I'd like to ask you a question.
Sure.
Senator Moynihan is said to believe that no bill will pass unless it passed the Senate, unless it has your support. I'd like to ask you some threshold questions about what must be done to the Clinton program in order to get your support. First of all, can you support a health care plan that has an employer mandate to pay for it?
No, I cannot support that kind of a health care plan. My little state of Kansas, about 85% of our employers have fewer than 10 employees, so we're a small business state, and we're prepared to provide, the employers are to provide health coverage, but in some cases they can't. We don't believe employer mandates are the right way to go.
How about the National Health Board that would define the coverage that people must pay for?
The so-called health care alliances, you'd have at least one in each state. It's another mandate. It's another bureaucracy. My view is they've got to go. And I think Senator Moynihan may share that view. You could have a voluntary program, but not a mandatory.
Now, the administration gets into a semantic argument over what counts as and doesn't count as a price control. A lot of critics believe there are lots of price controls in this bill. Do you believe there are, and can you support a bill with price controls in it?
I remember price controls under President Nixon. They didn't work then. They're not going to work now. And there are price controls on insurance premiums, on drug prices. Some of those things may sound good to the average person, but in my view, they're going to lead to rationing. They're going to lead to exactly the wrong result. And I'm hopeful we can work with President and Mrs. Clinton and have an abbreviated bill and get it passed this year.
Briefly back on Whitewater and then on foreign policy. On Whitewater, you said there are a lot of questions, Senator, but there are no charges, and there's been no break-in, and now the question is who did it and who was behind it. What is the difference between this and McCarthyism, where you simply ask questions about someone and force them into revealing documents, revealing their personal life, revealing anything you want?
Well, I don't think I asked the questions. I think the questions came from the media, and then while the president was in Europe, 9 Democratic senators asked for an independent counsel. And again, going back to Vice President Gore's statement on the Senate floor in June 16th, 1991, he said there's not a lot of evidence, but there are a lot of questions that ought to be answered. I don't think this is anything unusual.
But Congress, in its judgment, rejected then Senator Gore's desire to have a committee.
No, they didn't. They had a subcommittee hearing in Foreign Relations, a bipartisan committee with subpoena powers. No, they did have a hearing. They didn't find anything wrong. That was based on the evidence that Gary Sick, who was in the Carter White House, had provided. Turned out to be a big nothing, a big fraud. But they did have the hearing. I think the bottom line here is the Democrats will investigate Republicans as they did 18 times in 12 years, at least 18 times. But Democrats in Congress aren't going to investigate Democratic administration.
All right, on to foreign policy. On Bosnia, as I understand the NATO meeting this past week, laid down really 3 demands on the Serbs in Bosnia. And in 2 instances, the Serbs told NATO it wouldn't do it, including the lifting of the siege of Sarajevo. The suggestion is that if the Serbs don't do what NATO wants, then airstrikes will be forthcoming. What's your view? Should they be forthcoming?
Well, there's a little hooker there. They say that they'll not be forthcoming unless Boutros Ghali or the United Nations signs off. My view is I would like to support President Clinton in this area, as I did several months ago, and he was talking about airstrikes and lifting the arms embargo. That's key to give the Muslims an opportunity to defend themselves. And if they have to remove the French and the British troops, let's get them out of there, and let's have some airstrikes. I think the president ought to insist on this, and we have the French support now. The English are not quite on board, but my view is that if NATO has any reason for existence, this might be one reason.
Well, on this program last Sunday, Senator Nunn said that if there were airstrikes, we ought to be prepared to go as far as Belgrade, because that was the seat with Milosevic of the Serb support. Would you favor that?
Well, it depends on the circumstances. Certainly, again, I don't have all the information, but it seems to me that Milosevic has a hearing problem, and it's getting worse and worse, even while President Clinton was there, which I thought was an affront to President Clinton and the other leaders of NATO, and they were meeting in Brussels. They stepped up the airstrikes on Sarajevo, and sooner or later, somebody has to tell people that this is enough. We can't continue to just with rhetoric. We've got to have some action, got to have strong leadership, and of course it's got to come from America.
Give us your assessment of the president's trip to Russia. Did he accomplish anything substantive then in supporting Boris Yeltsin?
Well, I think he did. I think the fact that he was there was good. I think the fact that he had 3 days with Yeltsin was good. I think he's right in suggesting now that we sort of have to put our money on Yeltsin, but there's a limit on how far external efforts and pressure can have any impact in the former Soviet Republic of Russia. And we've got to be very careful so we're not always favoring Russia or favoring Yeltsin as opposed to Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, and the Slovak Republic. And also Ukraine is very important. So my view is it was a good, as far as I know now, we have to assess it, it was a good effort. I wish the president well, and I hope he has good luck with Assad, and I hope he tells Assad that until you stop harboring terrorists and improve your human rights record, we're not going to deal with you.
You wish the president well. I want to come back to this nagging business of Whitewater. Jim Leach, as you know, in the House, has taken...
did a very good job.
Well, he's a Republican who's led the attack there. He's very mild-mannered. And he says, well, well, that's right. He says no man is above the law, and he wants an investigation, but he says it should not go forward to criminal indictments, certainly, when it comes to the President and Mrs. Clinton. Is that your view also?
Well, my view is you ought to have the independent counsel make the investigation before all of us make prejudgments. I'm not ready to prejudge. I hope that when it's all over, it's over. But I think the bottom line is going to be that there's something to hide, or there wouldn't be so much effort by the White House damage control team to continually make up excuses, tell falsehoods, say the papers have been released, and all these things.
I wasn't asking you to prejudge, but I just simply want your view as to whether if the special prosecutor wants to present before the grand jury evidence that would lead to indictments of people even as important as the President and Mrs. Clinton, whether that should be allowed and whether that should go forward.
I'm not wishing for anything like that, but I think that's up to the independent counsel. That's why you appoint the independent counsel.
Senator Dole, thank you. Thanks very much for coming in. Pleased to have you with us.
Come on down.
I shall shortly. Coming next, the Vice President of the U.S., Al Gore, in a moment.
There's a problem with most dishwashers. No matter how hard you try, there's always something that doesn't quite fit in. Unless you have the new GE Profile dishwasher with Smart Rack design. Unlike the average dishwasher, you get over 20 different loading options that let you arrange pots, pans, and dishes with the greatest of ease. The GE Profile.
Mom.
A fitting end.
No problem.
To any meal.
There's cause for celebration. It's the opening of the latest ITT Sheraton Hotel. Sheraton is now the ultimate global hotel chain for business travelers, with 420 hotels, inns, resorts, and all suites, and one high standard of service in over 60 countries. What does ITT bring to the party? $1 billion worth of improved systems, services, and renovations. ITT, we're adding more than just our name.
This Week with David Brinkley will continue in a moment.
Monday, what difference did Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. really make for today's African Americans?
Then just how far will some people go to win an Oscar?
Plus Lily Tomlin on Good Morning America Monday.
Once a year and only once a year, the Men's Warehouse has a sale. Save an additional 20 to 40% on suits, sport coats, and slacks. It takes a Men's Warehouse sale to beat a Men's Warehouse price. I guarantee it.
Your fireplace adds so much to your home, and Gordon's can add even more. Gordon's Fireplace Shop and Home Decor. Selection second to none. Glass screens, fine accessories, high-efficiency natural gas fireplaces. Plus home furnishings that will add to the warmth of your home. Portland's finest selection in fireplace screens, gas logs, and gas fireplaces on sale today. Everything for your fireplace. Gordon's Fireplace Shop and Home Decor. Open weeknights till 8.
If you thought Zsa Zsa Gabor only worked out divorce settlements, watch her work out with 2 young hunks on her all new exercise video. Plus, why she lost $3 million to Elke Summer on the next Donahue.
Monday at 3 on KATU Channel 2. Sound off on the Tonya Harding controversy tonight on Town Hall.
Mr. Vice President, thank you for coming.
It's good to be back.
Pleased to have you. Are we going to see airstrikes in Bosnia? What do you think?
I don't know. The authorization was first granted last August. It was reaffirmed at the NATO summit with President Clinton properly telling all of the assembled leaders, make sure that you're serious if you're going to go forward on that. We have always been ready, willing, and able to join in stronger efforts there. Europe has been divided. I believe that the NATO discussion of that issue will improve the chances that the West can respond more effectively.
Would airstrikes be effective in that kind of terrain, that kind of war?
Remember that the specific reason given in the authorization was to prevent the strangulation of Sarajevo by a heightened siege.
Right.
And the events of the last couple of weeks have been very troubling, dismaying there. And for that particular purpose, perhaps they could. In the meantime, the longest airlift, longer than the Berlin airlift, is still underway. The toughest sanctions against Serbia ever waged against any nation in the history of the world are continuing to be imposed. And the peace efforts, such as they are continuing.
George?
Let me invite you to a historical rumination relevant to health care. Can you think in American history of any permanent increase in the size and intrusiveness of government comparable to what the administration's proposing in health care? Anything in American history?
Well, we specifically rejected the proposal to have the government do all this. This is...
It could have been bigger, but I'm saying, is there anything in American history comparable to taking, sort of federalizing 1/7 of the economy?
Well, we're not. And again, if I could gently challenge the premise of your question, we're choosing specifically to take the competition route, but rather, but focus the competition on the quality of care and the efficiency with which it is delivered, rather than having the competition play out as it is playing out now on the basis of who can get rid of the sick customers the fastest and who can exploit the system. It's crazy the way it operates now. It needs to be fixed. Some of our opponents are saying, well, there's no problem with America's healthcare system, but you know, that's kind of hard to sell to the 40 million working Americans who have absolutely no health insurance. It's hard to sell to the person who comes home with a bill for $5 for a tablet of aspirin. This system is broken. It does need to be fixed, and we're going to fix it.
First, with regard to, I think the latest figures are 38 million Americans without insurance. Isn't it the case that most of them will either have insurance within the next 12 months or are young, healthy people who think they're immortal anyway and choose not to have health insurance? I mean, is that a reason justifying this extraordinary federal move on health care?
Oh, sure. If we have, as we do, the highest cost for health care of any nation in the entire world by far, and at the same time, we have 38 to 40 million Americans in the workforce who do not have any health insurance, and many tens of millions more who are grossly underinsured. Of course, those are symptoms of a system that is badly in need of repair.
With regard to the health care inflation, which is one of the reasons the administration cites, in the very good inflation news that came out this week was particularly good inflation news, and it was that in the first half of last year, medical inflation was only 6.3%, and in the second half, it was only 4.4%. Does that indicate that already there are competitive market forces suppressing medical inflation and thereby diminishing somewhat the need for the radical solution you're proposing?
No, I don't think there's any doubt about what it indicates. It indicates that some of those who were shamelessly exploiting the system got scared to death as healthcare reform began to be debated, and as the administration and allies of ours in the Congress said that they were going to put the spotlight on the worst examples of abuses in the system. And I mean, there's a lot of anecdotal evidence of these boards of these companies sitting around saying, hey, we better cool it and slow down these cost increases while this battle's going on.
You're saying that an enormous amount of inflation in the medical sector was sinister and sinful and wickedness on the part of individuals.
Well, those are your those are your words.
Well,
the fact is that the system, as it is currently constructed, invites exploitation. Now, how else can you describe a decision to cancel somebody's health insurance when they get sick and need the coverage? Well, that's wrong, isn't it?
You talk about critics of your program. Daniel Patrick Moynihan, the Democratic chairman of the Finance Committee, says there is no health care crisis in this country.
Well, there is a health care crisis in this country, and we look forward to working closely with Senator Moynihan to address this. He's put forward some very constructive ideas. We're going to work carefully with him.
But he's wrong.
Well, I didn't hear. I didn't hear exactly what he said. No, I didn't. I don't know the context. To the extent that anybody says that we don't have a health care crisis in this country, I believe they're wrong because, again, we're paying at least 25% more per person than the people of any other nation on the face of this earth, and we have all these millions uninsured.
He says he just might hold the health care bill hostage to welfare reform. Apparently he doesn't believe you're serious about going forward. And in fact, many White House aides are saying there has now been a decision made that you can't do two big things at once. You go for health care and let welfare take a second place.
Well, no, let me state that differently. And first of all, Senator Moynihan has at other times said some good things about our welfare efforts. You've got to look at the welfare reform effort for the way
he changes his mind willy-nilly, or
no?
what?
It depends on how you define the question. First of all, we're taking a building block approach. The first big building block was the historic expansion of the Earned Income Tax Credit, which incidentally is, I think, significantly responsible for the dramatic turnaround in the economy under President Clinton.
I'm really asking you whether
I understand,
welfare reform is taking a second place.
No, it is not, and I'm telling you why it's not. The first building block is the Earned Income Tax Credit. The second building block is health care reform, because the number one reason why people who get off welfare then decide to get back on welfare is in order to get health coverage for their children. And the health care reform proposal pending this year will fix that. We're also proceeding on reform measures to eliminate unnecessary parts of the paperwork involved in welfare reform. We're pursuing electronic benefits transfer, which is a good reform.
Before our time runs out, I'm sorry, sir, I've got to ask you about Senator Dole, who says that then Senator Gore loved congressional investigations of Republican administrations, but now seems to oppose a congressional investigation of a Democratic administration.
Well,
on Whitewater.
I didn't, my research on Senator Dole's statements didn't go as far back in history as his evidently did, but I did notice a statement from Senator Dole just last week saying that if a special counsel is appointed, there will be no second guessing from Republicans in Congress. The fact is, the special counsel is now being appointed. Let's let the special counsel do his or her job.
And do you believe that no man is above the law? That whatever the special counsel takes before a grand jury ought to run?
Well, you know, of course, but the premise of the question is that there's some wrongdoing, or may well be some wrongdoing. There hasn't been.
How do you know?
Well, let's let the special counsel...
I mean, you said the other day you didn't have all the details. Do you now have all of the facts and details?
Look, all of the information's been turned over, every scrap of it. The special counsel is being appointed. What more do you want?
One final question on this. You've been in Washington almost since you were in diapers, and you know very clearly that what happens in Washington is people think when there's an effort to conceal that there's something to be concealed. The White House has been very reluctant to have these papers made public. Is it your impression that this is simply a sort of normal reflex of privacy? Is that what you're really saying?
Yeah, I think that's right. And also a normal reflex of outrage when you've done absolutely nothing wrong and somebody kind of vaguely accuses you of doing something wrong and doesn't make any specific charges. I think that's a kind of a normal human trait. And now look, again, special counsel's going to be appointed. All the information's been turned over, so let's let it run its course.
The effect of the subpoena and the special counsel is to keep all of this private.
Well, no, a special counsel is charged under the law with making a full disclosure of the findings. But can I say one other thing?
One other, and then we have to go.
Yeah, well, while we've been talking about all this, the president has just completed a flawless virtuoso performance with Eastern and Central Europe, Western Europe, Russia, now Assad, with a tremendous breakthrough in the press conference just moments ago where Assad is calling for normal relations with Israel. Meanwhile, the economy is booming at a 6% rate while the deficit is coming down, interest rates and inflation at historic lows. So as we prepare to celebrate Martin Luther King's birthday tomorrow, the country is once again headed in the right direction.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming, Mr. Vice President. Coming next, our discussion here, possibly including some argument, and joining us will be Cokie Roberts of ABC News. In a moment.
Four, one. No, that's not it. 451. No, that's that stupid screen pass. I can't remember the number. I better call an audible. Call Candace.
So, Steve, you got the tickets?
Okay, Candace, here's the deal. I got 5 on the 40 for the 14th, 3 on the 50 for the 30th,
good with numbers.
6 on the 40 for the 14th again.
Call now for the revolutionary voice-activated phone card. Only from Sprint.
Every second of every day, there are 3 new mouths in this world to feed. Hundreds of millions more by the year 2000. And the majority of them will be born in countries where malnutrition is already reaching alarming proportions. Right now, the world has the food and the resources to conquer hunger. But it won't happen as long as we continue to look the other way. ADM, supermarket to the world.
In 14 cities and 10 countries across the Pacific, they're playing our song. United Airlines. Come fly the airline that's uniting the world. Come fly the friendly skies.
Anyone can see that the new GE Profile Radiant Convection range is easy to clean, but the real technological advantage is what you can't see. So we'll show it to you in a roundabout way. Introducing the first GE range that circulates hot air all around your food, roasting meats up to 30% faster, so they get done to a turn on the outside while staying tender and juicy on the inside. Why does GE offer such an ingenious way to cook? Because we know how much of life revolves around dinner.
ABC Theater presents Diana Ross in her first motion picture for television.
It's as though she has a terminal illness, except she never dies. Can I go home?
TV Guide says Diana Ross gives a bravura performance.
It's called paranoid schizophrenia.
How could you not tell me?
I have my life again.
Out of Darkness tonight.
The president is coming home from his trip to Europe. Give me your assessment of it, George, and make it short. We don't have much time.
Well, he went over and peered into a terrible abyss. And the great question as he went over was, who all should be in NATO? That will change what NATO is. And the question is, first of all, the more nations are in NATO, the more we are implicated in the fate of those nations. And the president is understandably cautious about that, particularly because
we will commit ourselves to defend them if attacked.
Well, it's not clear, but that looks like an implication.
What NATO is
and there are scores of millions of ethnic Russians who are no longer within Russia. If there's anything that has convulsed this century more than anything else, it is the Wilsonian doctrine of ethnic self-determination. So we want to steer clear of all these powder kegs.
Well, the trip had its glitches. I mean, when the president referred to Helmut Kohl to his face as a sumo wrestler, and when he lighted the bridge in Prague over which no motor conveyance has ever driven so that the car could drive behind him for the cameras, and in Moscow when he ripped off the microphone when Jim Mikhalchowski of NBC had the temerity to ask about it. However, I think he handled himself pretty well. That notwithstanding, I think it was exactly right to warn NATO, don't make these threats on Bosnia if you don't have the will to do it, which it means you go first, we'll be with you. I think he was right to support Yeltsin, although I don't know that it's going to do any good. And so much of a presidential trip abroad when there's no major crisis is cosmetic. And again, the glitches aside, I think cosmetically he proved his mettle.
Well, and if he comes home from today saying having further steps towards peace in the Middle East and nuclear weapons really being disarmed in the Ukraine, I think that that's clearly a success. I think that there are still very big questions about the role of NATO. I think of this, for the European countries to have the temerity to say airstrikes when the United States tried saying that a year or more ago and they backed away is a little much. But if NATO can't do something about Bosnia, what's the point of NATO? And I think that question has not been answered. And I think that the question of the eggs in the Yeltsin basket are still very strong questions. I mean, I don't think it makes any sense to not see someone like Zhirinovsky when you're there. He is the leader of a large party, and he might be a jerk, but it's worth sitting down and talking to him.
Yeah, but to see Zhirinovsky would undermine Yeltsin. I mean, you come to Russia and here's Yeltsin under fire.
Yeltsin, as you recall, and he refused to see Yeltsin. He only saw Gorbachev, and it was a mistake.
This isn't Bush, but the point is you're an apple and an orange, and I think that's what you're referring to here, because to support Zhirinovsky in any sense seems to me to be the wrong message to send. We may not be able to control.
You don't have to support him. You can see him and ream him out. But the idea of saying we're not going to have anything to do with you, I've never understood that. I've never understood
not seeing the president ought to go to a foreign country and see an opposition leader and ream him out publicly.
Talk to him any way he wants to talk to him, but talk to him.
Yes, a president who has just met with Assad cannot have flinched from meeting with Zhirinovsky on moral grounds. Assad is
the president of Syria. Nothing we can do about that, and he's a player that we have to deal with.
Well,
peace in the Middle East.
Zhirinovsky. He's
not yet.
He participated in an election and got a lot of votes.
Partisan group.
Before our time runs out, as I say, we don't have much today. Nancy Kerrigan, the ice skater. What do we think about that? This apparently there was some conspiracy to hurt her, maim her, so she couldn't skate. Nobody has been charged with anything yet, but what is it? Sports have got to be too much money, too commercial, too rich?
Some people are going to be serious charges in this, beginning with conspiracy. But David, whenever one of these particularly revolting things happens, it's an incitement to commit sociology and say what it all means about America. It doesn't mean a thing about America or the times in which we live. There's an enormous amount of money at stake, and people are moved by money. If, and it's an enormous if it turns out that a rival skater knew about this, then we may have demonstrated, redundantly, that women can be as vicious as men, and that may be a blow for equality, but there's no larger point.
Tonya Harding should not represent this country in the Olympics, even if it is demonstrated that she did not know. Sometimes you have to take responsibility for your entourage, a word that's used to describe your ex-husband, her bodyguard, other people. And I think she should not represent the United States under these circumstances.
Well, that's a little harsh if in fact she really didn't know anything about it, which we will soon probably know more about. But I do think that the notion that the Olympics is all just some sort of sweet games of amateur players who have just worked their hearts out is certainly gone by the boards, if not before now, by now for sure.
Well, sports in this country, football players make millions, baseball, basketball. There's nothing unusual about big money being involved in sports, is there?
No, but I guess the idea is that money corrupts. I don't think that's automatically correct, but I think generally there's a problem when $10 million is up for an Olympic medal, Olympic gold, and it's riding on that.
Well, we'll be back in a moment.
I want to tell you about my home far, far away. My mother and father are there, and I miss them.
Communication in all its forms links us one to another. For communications to advance, capital is critical.
Don't forget your homework. Bye.
That's why so many communications companies talk to Merrill Lynch. last 3 years, we raised over $50 billion for communications companies around the globe. More than any other financial firm. We connect investors to opportunities and the people of the world to each other. For them, it makes a difference. The difference is Merrill Lynch.
To you, this may be just a bushel of corn. But to us at the Archer Daniels Midland Company, it's enough pure golden corn oil to make 2 pounds of margarine. It's also enough protein meal to raise 3 chickens. We even capture the surplus heat generated during processing and use it to accelerate the hydroponic growth of fresh vegetables. From what's left, we distilled 2.5 gallons of ethanol, used to make cleaner-burning, high-octane gasoline to help improve the environment. So you see, we get both food and fuel from each bushel of corn. One more reason why ADM is known as Supermarket to the World.
Monday, New Jersey wants $2 billion of your money to build a tunnel to save these homes. The new governor says the plan's all wet. There's a cheaper way, but there's a catch.
It's made much more financial and economic sense to get these people out of here.
It's Your Money on ABC's World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Finally, some odds and ends in the week's news. We learned this week a jury could not agree, and so there was a mistrial for one of the Menendez boys. They admit they murdered their parents. They walked into the library where they were sitting looking at television and eating ice cream. They shot them both dead and then pleaded self-defense. From Sports Illustrated, a sports goods factory in Texas was told by the federal government's inspectors it did not have enough restrooms for its women employees. Did the plant add more restrooms? No, it fired 50 women. A poll in tomorrow's Newsweek shows more women think Lorena Bobbitt should be found not guilty and set free, while most men think she should be locked up. Is that a surprise? For all of us here at ABC News, until next week, thank you.
This Week with David Brinkley. Brought to you by Merrill Lynch. For clients around the world, we make a difference. And by ADM, Supermarket to the World.